Your patient today is 17 years old. She's 22 weeks pregnant. Her baby is the length of your hand plus a couple of inches. And she's been feeling her baby kick for the last several weeks, but she's asleep on an operating room table. You introduce an instrument called a sofa clamp. It's about 13 inches long. It's made of stainless steel. The business end of this clamp is about 2.5 inches long and a half-inch wide. There are rows of sharp teeth. This is a grasping instrument. When it gets a hold of something, it does not let go. A D&E procedure is a blind abortion, so picture yourself introducing this and grabbing anything you can blindly and pull, and I do mean hard, and out pops a leg about that big, which you put down on the table next to you. Reach in again, pull out an arm about the same length, which you put down on the table next to you. And use this instrument again and again to tear out the spine, the intestines, the heart and lungs. Head on the baby that size is about the size of a large plum. Can't see it, but you've pretty good idea you've got it if you've got your instrument around something and your fingers are spread about as far as they go. You know you did it right if you crush down on the instrument and white material runs out of the cervix. That was the baby's brains. Then you could pull out skull pieces. And you have a day like I had a lot of times, sometimes a little face comes back and stares back at you. Congratulations, you just successfully performed a second trimester D&E abortion. You just affirmed her right to choose.
I got a radio call that from Ron Gillette, the foreman, and he said the men were throwing up and there was something really wrong.
One of them fell down and hit me right in front of my feet. And it was opened up, and there it was. It was a mutilated body. And the more closer I looked at it, it was a human body.
And when I came to work the following day, I saw it myself. I couldn't believe it. And just little bitty babies, just all quarter pieces. Their heads chopped off, arms, legs, it just makes you sick to see something like that. Well, really, it's just, it makes you want to cry when you see something like that.
I really don't want to witness it again. Not what I saw.
Well, as the supervisor for the County of Los Angeles, we found out through the media that 17,000 infants had been stored in a container. So we asked for an investigation by the district attorney and the coroner's office. We found approximately 190 were over 20 weeks of age. I think some as old as 25, 27 weeks.
The abortionist reaches up into the womb and seizes part of the body of the baby, usually a leg or an arm, twisting and tears it off and away from the body of the baby. The baby, feeling pain, does not have any anesthetic. Bleeding is extreme. The abortionist returns in there with this grasping pliers-like instrument, tearing more parts of the body away, snapping the spine, and finally the mechanical problem is to get the skull out, and so he usually has to crush the skull in order to bring it out.
We had a court order that would allow us to bury these infants, being a humane act. And the ACLU comes in again saying that this is just tissue. We want to incinerate them, and there's no need for a burial. Because if you had a burial, somehow that's going to create a problem. Problem for whom?
Like, what if it, pops out, at home?
If it comes out,
yeah.
Then it comes out.
Then
Flush it.
Just, flush it?
Yeah, but you still have to come in.
Okay.
We have to make sure that everything came out, but we never had a situation like that.
Because if it's, what if it's, on the floor, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What would we do with it?
We're not going to be taking care of it.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
You guys would come
yes, if anything, we'll tell you to put it in a bag or something or somewhere and bring it to us.
They would force me to have it?
They might, or they might just tell you to push it out.
Really?
Yeah, Kings County tells patients to push out the pregnancy.
When it's alive?
Mm-hmm. When you're this far along, they tell them to push it out.
Even if it's and then it comes out alive?
Yeah. And then I don't know what they do with it.
I did not have a single partner. I was not in a relationship. And to be honest, let's talk about the fact that hormonal birth control can be very scary to women. I would say that I've studied birth, so I'm a birth doula. I support women during their their birthing experience.
Right.
And so the thing about birth is that it is personal, it is sacred, it is yours, and that like you need to be supported. It should be something that you craft with like having exactly whoever you want in the room with you. And so that's what I did. That's what I meant by this was as birth-like as possible. I was supported 360 degrees by women who held my hand, who said like, you are strong and you are beautiful and you are making the best decision for your life, and we trust you because you trust yourself.
We've been working so hard for women's rights for so many years now, and we can see it's finally coming true.
So overwhelming, but in the best way possible. Like, we never expected that it would be so much of a landslide that it's seeming to be, and that just, it makes it feel so much better because it's the majority, it's what the people of Ireland want, and that's so heartwarming.
Es el momento histórico, este es un momento que va a ser recordado y que va a ser sinónimo de un avance en derechos, donde las mujeres avanzamos y nadie retrocede.
On the 46th anniversary of Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court decision that legalized abortion nationwide, state lawmakers in New York approved a law permitting abortion in the state for any reason until the 24th week of pregnancy and then up until birth to protect, quote, the life and health of the mother. Cuomo applauded the legislation and marked the occasion by lighting the spire of the One World Trade Center pink to celebrate. This law permits abortion for any reason until the 24th week of pregnancy, and then in cases to protect, quote, the life and health of the mother after that. Can you clarify, what does that mean?
That is so important that every pro-life person understands the reality of what that means. The health exception, which is something that we see in Roe versus Wade and Doe versus Bolton, that the health exception is left up to the attending doctor, aka the abortionist in charge. So long as the abortionist is willing to consider any kind of difficulty that the mother may be facing, whether it's financial, relational, emotional, any kind of health reason, this can be interpreted to be allow abortion up until the moment of birth. And as we've seen doctors speaking out after this law has been enacted, that there's no medical reason to end the life of a child at term. You should just induce delivery, and then you have a live baby.
So I want to take it a step further. And I want to pass this year a constitutional amendment that writes into the Constitution a provision protecting a woman's right to control her own reproductive health. We'll pass it next year. We'll put it on the ballot. We'll write it into the Constitution, and we'll be able to say we have protected women's rights in a way no one else has before.
No one has a right to choose this. No one. No one has a right to choose this. You don't have a right to choose this, okay? That's a baby. You don't get to kill it just because it's convenient to you. You don't have a right to say, it's my decision where and when and how to have the baby. That's an individual human being, and if that baby were outside the womb and you stuck a knife through its chest, you'd be charged with first-degree murder. You kill it in the womb, and we call it a human right. That's not a human right because that's a human, and that human doesn't have any rights because you just decided its rights are less important than your right to your own convenience. Despicable. Despicable.
I met my wife during my first year of training at Albany Medical Center. We got married about a year later and found that we had an infertility problem. After years of failed infertility treatment and several years trying to adopt a child, we were blessed with adopting a little girl. 2 months short of my daughter's 6th birthday, she was killed in an auto accident and literally died in our arms in the back of an ambulance. Anyone who has children might think they have some idea of what that feels like, but unless you've been through it yourself, you have no idea whatsoever. I know people find it hard to believe, but what do you do after disaster? You bury your child and then you go back to your life. And I don't remember exactly how long it was after my daughter died that I showed up at Albany Medical Center OR number 9 to perform my first second trimester D&E abortion. I wasn't thinking of it as anything special. This was routine to me. But I reached in, literally pulled out an arm or leg and got sick. You know, earlier on I described stacking up body parts on the side of the table. It's not to, gross people out, to use a simple term. When you do an abortion, you need to keep inventory. You have to make sure you get 2 arms and 2 legs and all the pieces. If you don't, your patient's going to come back infected, bleeding, or dead. So I soldiered on and finished that abortion. And I know it sounds, as I said, hard for people to believe, but I'm telling you straight up my experience. You know, after over 1,200 abortions, first and second trimester up to 24 weeks and all the rest of it, and being very dedicated to it, for the first time in my life, I really looked. I really looked at that pile of body parts on the side of the table. And I didn't see her wonderful right to choose, and I didn't see all the money I just made. All I could see was somebody's son or daughter. And I stopped doing late-term abortions after that, and several months later stopped doing all abortions.
My name is Gianna Jessen, and I would like to thank you so much for the opportunity to testify here today. My biological mother was 7.5 months pregnant when she went to a Planned Parenthood and was advised, and they advised her to have a late-term saline abortion. This method of abortion burns the baby inside and out, blinding and suffocating the child, who is then born dead, usually within 24 hours, and there should be a photo there. Yes, this is what I survived. Instead of dying, after 18 hours of being burned in my mother's womb, I was delivered alive in an abortion clinic in Los Angeles on April the 6th, 1977. You can see a photo as well of my medical records. My medical records state, born alive during saline abortion, 6 a.m. Ha! Victory. Thankfully, the abortionist was not at work yet. Had he been there, he would have ended my life with strangulation, suffocation, or leaving me there to die. Instead, a nurse called an ambulance, and I was rushed to a hospital. Doctors did not expect me to live. I did. I was later diagnosed with cerebral palsy, which was caused by a lack of oxygen to my brain while surviving an abortion. I was never supposed to hold up my head or walk. I do. And cerebral palsy, ladies and gentlemen, is a tremendous gift to me. I was eventually placed in foster care and later adopted. And hear me clearly, I forgive my biological mother. Within the first year after my birth, I was used as an expert witness in a case where an abortionist had been caught strangling a child to death after being born alive. Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, said the following: "The most merciful thing that a large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it." Planned Parenthood is not ashamed of what they have done or continue to do, but we will have to give an account as a nation before God for our apathy and for the murder of over 50 million children in the womb. Every time we falter in courage as individuals and fail to confront this evil, I wonder how many lives have been lost in our silence while we make sure we are lauded among men, and that we don't offend anyone. How many children have died and been dismembered and their parts sold for our ego, our convenience, and our promiscuity? How many Lamborghinis were purchased with the blood of innocent children? The blood that cries to the Lord from the ground, like that of the blood of Abel.